All right, the consumer notice, real big there. The state of Pennsylvania wants you to understand this is not a contract. This is just an explanation of what each agent's role is depending on the side of the transaction. So if I am your listing agent, seller agent, right? As a seller agent, the licensee and the company I work for work exclusively for the seller. And we must act in the seller's best interest, including making a continuous and good faith effort to find a buyer, except while the property is subject to an existing agreement. So once we get under contract, I no longer have to do open houses, right? I don't have to make social media posts because it's under contract, is what they're basically saying. All confidential information relayed by the seller to me must be kept confidential, except if there's material defects. Like, so if I walk into your house and your basement walls are wet because it rained real heavy, and I say, oh, looks like you get water in the basement. You're like, yeah, it gets water in the basement. And then you go to seller disclosure and you don't disclose it. I am obligated to correct that, to have you correct that. Okay? Don't worry about a sub-agent. If I'm representing you as a buyer, obviously buyer agent is where we would be looking, right? As a buyer's agent, the licensee and the licensee's company they work for, I work exclusively for the buyer, even if paid by the seller. The buyer agent must act in the buyer's best interest, very similar to the seller, right? Including making a continuous and good faith effort to find a property for the buyer, except while the buyer is subject to existing contract, right? If you found something, I no longer have to continue to try to find you something because you found something, right? It's the same as the seller agent stuff above there. Everything must be kept confidential information except for materials defects, right? Dual agent's the last one we're going to look at. Well, gee, as a dual agent, the licensee works for both buyer and seller. Dual agent may not take any action that is adverse or detrimental. So this is so easy, man. If a seller says to me when we first list a property, my bottom number is $300,000, but you list it for $320,000. If I bring the buyer in, I cannot tell the buyer the seller's bottom number is $320,000 is basically what that's saying, right? Dual agent may not take any action that is adverse or detrimental to either party. So at this point, I'm giving advice, but I'm not giving advice based on stuff I may know at each individual party, right? A licensee must have the written consent of both parties before acting as a dual agent. Okay, we're not going to look at any of the other ones, designated nor transaction, because I don't practice that type of real estate. If you have any questions, as always, contact me.